Do you have any idea who my father is? You can't make me wait like this. 12-year-old Madison Price's shrill voice echoed through the TSA checkpoint at LAX airport. She stood with her arms crossed, glaring at the security officer who'd asked her to step aside for additional screening after the metal detector had beeped. The security officer, a man in his 40s with a patient expression, gestured to the secondary screening area. It's just a routine check, miss. It'll only take a moment. I don't have a moment. Our flight board's in 20 minutes. This is discrimination. Mrs. Price, Madison's mother, was on her phone trying to get through to someone important. Hold on, Madison. I'm calling your father. He'll straighten this out. The security officer, whose name tag read J. Martinez, remained calm. Ma'am, everyone who sets off the metal detector gets additional screening. It's standard procedure. We're not singling anyone out. You are singling us out. We fly first class. We have TSA pre-check. We shouldn't have to deal with this. Madison pulled out her phone and started taking photos of Officer Martinez. I'm posting this everywhere. My dad knows the CEO of this airline. You're going to lose your job. Miss, I need you to put the phone away and step over here for screening. Make me! You're just a security guard. You probably make minimum wage. You can't tell me what to do. Several other passengers in line were watching now, some filming the confrontation. Officer Martinez maintained his composure, though a slight tension appeared around his eyes. Miss, I'm going to ask you one more time to comply with security procedures. If you refuse, I'll have to call my supervisor and potentially airport police. Good! Call them! Call everyone! When my father gets here, you'll be sorry you ever— Madison, please, her mother interrupted, finally off the phone. Just do what he says so we can get on our flight. No! He needs to learn that he can't treat people like us this way. We're important. He's just a nobody in a uniform. What Madison didn't know was that Officer J. Martinez wasn't just a TSA security officer. His full name was Agent Jason Martinez, and he was a federal air marshal who'd been working undercover at LAX for the past 3 months, monitoring security protocols and potential threats. His actual badge was in his pocket, along with his service weapon and the authority to arrest anyone who interfered with airport security. And right now, he was reaching the end of his patience with the most entitled child he'd encountered in 15 years of federal service. Miss Price, he said quietly, his tone shifting to something more authoritative. I'm going to give you 2 options. Option 1, you step aside, allow the screening, and make your flight. Option 2, you continue this behavior, and I call airport police for interfering with federal security operations. Which would you prefer? I prefer option 3. You apologize for wasting my time and let me through. That's not an option. Madison stepped closer, her voice dropping to what she clearly thought was a threatening whisper, but was actually loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. My father is Marcus Price. He owns 3 hotels in this city. He golfs with the mayor. 1 phone call from him, and you'll be working security at a parking garage. Officer Martinez pulled out his phone. Is that so? Why don't we call him right now and see what he thinks about his daughter threatening a federal officer? You're not a federal officer. You're TSA. That's barely even real law enforcement. Actually, a woman's voice cut in from behind Madison. TSA officers are federal employees operating under the Department of Homeland Security. Threatening them is a federal offense. Madison spun around to see a woman in a business suit, maybe in her 50s, with the unmistakable bearing of someone in authority. She was showing a badge to Officer Martinez, who straightened slightly in recognition. Supervisory Air Marshal Patricia Chen, the woman introduced herself. Agent Martinez, is there a problem here? Martinez's expression showed relief. His supervisor rarely revealed herself during operations, but apparently she'd been monitoring this situation and decided to intervene. Young lady is refusing additional screening and has been verbally abusive, ma'am. She's also threatened my employment and taken photographs without permission. Marshal Chen looked at Madison with the kind of stern disappointment that made grown men confess to crimes. I see. And did this young lady happen to mention why she believes she's above federal security protocols? Her father apparently owns hotels and plays golf with the mayor. Interesting. And did she ask to speak with a supervisor? She demanded it, yes. Well, I'm a supervisor. Several levels above Officer Martinez, in fact. So let me explain something to you, Miss Price. Madison Price. And you need to— I don't need to do anything except my job, which is ensuring the safety of everyone in this airport. Now, here's what's going to happen. You're going to step over to the screening area. You're going to submit to additional screening without complaint. And then you're going to apologize to Officer Martinez for your behavior. I'm not apologizing to... Or, Marshal Chen continued, her voice hardening, I can have airport police escort you to a private screening room, where we can take all the time we need to ensure you're not a security threat. That process typically takes about 2 hours. Your choice. Mrs. Price finally put her phone away completely. Madison, just do what they say. Your father says to cooperate. Dad's okay with them treating us like criminals? Your father says you're acting like a spoiled brat and embarrassing the family. Now apologize, and let them do their job. Madison's face flushed red. Being contradicted by her mother in front of everyone was worse than any security screening. Fine, she muttered, stepping toward the screening area. Fine. What? Marshal Chen prompted. Fine, I'll do the screening. And, Madison glared at Officer Martinez. Sorry. Look him in the eye and try again. With sincerity this time. Madison forced herself to meet Officer Martinez's gaze. I'm sorry for being rude and for threatening you. I was wrong. Martinez nodded. Apology accepted. Now, if you'll step over here, this will only take a minute. The additional screening revealed that Madison's designer belt had set off the metal detector. The whole process took exactly 90 seconds. They still had 15 minutes before boarding. But Marshal Chen wasn't finished. She pulled Mrs. Price aside while Madison gathered her belongings. Ma'am, I need to be clear about something. What your daughter did today could have resulted in serious consequences. Threatening federal officers, interfering with security operations, attempting to use privilege to bypass safety protocols. These are all potentially criminal acts. Mrs. Price went pale. I had no idea she would. She's usually not this bad. The fact that you had to call her father to get her to comply suggests this is usually how she behaves. She clearly believes her family's wealth and connections put her above the rules. What are you going to do? Marshal Chen considered. Agent Martinez and I could file a report. We have everything on camera, including her threats and attempts at intimidation. But I have a better idea. She called Madison over. The girl approached warily, clearly sensing she wasn't out of trouble yet. Miss Price, do you know what an air marshal does? You're like sky cops or something? We're federal law enforcement officers who protect aircraft and passengers from threats. We undergo extensive training in defensive tactics, firearms, counterterrorism, and threat assessment. We blend in with regular passengers and crew, watching for anyone or anything that might pose a danger. Okay? What does that have to do with me? Officer Martinez isn't just TSA. He's an air marshal, just like me. He was working undercover when you decided to verbally assault him, threaten his livelihood, and attempt to bypass security protocols using your father's name. Madison's face went from red to white. He's a real federal agent? He is. And you committed several federal offenses in the span of about 5 minutes. I could arrest you. Right now. Have you charged as a juvenile? Create a record that would follow you for years. Please don't, Madison whispered, tears starting to form. I didn't know. That's the problem. You didn't care to know. You saw someone in a uniform and assumed they were beneath you. You assumed your privilege would protect you from consequences. You assumed wrong. Mrs. Price stepped forward. Please, Marshal Chen. What can we do to make this right? Marshal Chen pulled out a business card. There's a program for at-risk youth that partners with federal law enforcement. It's designed to show kids what real security work looks like, to teach them about respect for authority and the rule of law. Madison will participate in this program. 6 Saturdays, full days, learning about airport security, federal law enforcement, and why the rules exist. She'll be there, Mrs. Price promised immediately. Every Saturday. I'll make sure of it. And one more thing. Agent Martinez here volunteers with an organization that helps kids from underserved communities prepare for careers in law enforcement. Madison will volunteer there too. She needs to learn that people in uniform aren't just obstacles to be bullied. They're professionals who've dedicated their lives to public service. Over the next 6 weeks, Madison's Saturdays were transformed. She learned about threat detection, watched K-9 units work, studied surveillance techniques, and sat through briefings on counterterrorism. She met air marshals who'd stopped hijacking, TSA officers who'd caught dangerous weapons, and federal agents who'd dedicated their lives to keeping people safe. Agent Martinez personally oversaw much of her training. At first, Madison couldn't meet his eyes, too ashamed of how she'd treated him, but he was patient, professional, and slowly helped her understand the complexity of security work. You thought I was just TSA, he said one Saturday as they watched security footage together. But even if I had been, TSA officers are the first line of defense for millions of travelers every day. They catch weapons, explosives, prohibited items. They identify potential threats. They save lives. There's no just about it. He showed her statistics on items confiscated at checkpoints. Thousands of firearms every year. Countless knives, explosives, and other weapons. Each one representing a potential tragedy prevented. Every time someone like you tries to bypass security or intimidate officers into looking the other way, you're potentially creating a vulnerability. You're putting lives at risk because you think your convenience matters more than everyone's safety. Madison absorbed the lesson quietly, understanding finally the magnitude of her selfishness. The volunteer work with underprivileged kids was equally eye-opening. Madison met teenagers who dreamed of careers in law enforcement, but lacked the resources and connections she'd taken for granted. Kids who saw federal agents as heroes, not obstacles. Kids who would have been grateful for opportunities she'd dismissed as beneath her. One girl, 15-year-old Jasmine, particularly challenged Madison's worldview. You gotta spend 6 weeks learning from real federal agents because you were rude to one? Man, I wish I could get that opportunity. I've been trying to get into law enforcement training programs for 2 years. Madison felt a wave of shame. I can't believe I wasted that chance being angry about it. You should be there instead of me. Maybe. But you're here now. Question is what you're going to do with it. That conversation sparked an idea. Madison approached Marshal Chen with a proposal. What if they expanded the program to include motivated students like Jasmine? Kids who actually wanted to learn, not just kids who needed to be taught a lesson. That's actually a good idea, Marshal Chen admitted. But it would require funding, organization, adult supervision. My father's hotels could sponsor it. He's been looking for community outreach programs anyway, and I could help recruit students and organize events. Agent Martinez smiled. Now you're thinking like someone who wants to solve problems instead of causing them. The program launched 6 months later. Future federal leaders brought together kids from various backgrounds, giving them exposure to law enforcement careers and teaching them about security, justice, and public service. Madison ran the student recruitment and helped organize events. 2 years after the airport incident, Madison was featured in a local news story about the program. The reporter asked her how it started. I was a bratty kid who thought my family's money made me better than everyone else, Madison said honestly. I screamed at a federal agent because I thought he was beneath me. I was wrong about everything. And instead of just punishing me, he taught me. They all taught me. Agent Martinez was interviewed too. We could have arrested her, prosecuted her, made an example of her. But we saw a kid who'd been raised with privilege and no accountability. We saw an opportunity to redirect that energy into something positive. And it worked. The story went viral. But unlike the initial airport confrontation, the response was mostly positive. People appreciated the redemption arc, the transformation from entitled brat to community leader. When Madison graduated high school, she'd been accepted to several colleges for criminal justice programs. Agent Martinez and Marshal Chen both wrote letters of recommendation. I never thought I'd say this, Madison told them at her graduation party. But being called out at that airport was the best thing that ever happened to me. You could have destroyed me. Instead, you built me up. You showed me who I could become. Marshal Chen smiled. You showed us who you could become. We just gave you the chance. I spent my whole life thinking respect came from money and connections. You taught me it comes from service and integrity. Years later, after completing her degree and going through federal law enforcement training, Madison applied to become an air marshal. During her interview, she was asked about her motivations. When I was 12, I screamed at an air marshal because I thought he was just a security guard. I thought my privilege made me better than him. I was wrong. He was a professional dedicating his life to keeping people safe, and I was a spoiled brat who'd never done anything meaningful. She paused, emotion in her voice. That air marshal, Agent Martinez, taught me what real strength looks like, what real authority means, what service really requires. And I want to spend my life living up to the example he set. Not just doing the job, but doing it with the patience and grace to teach people who don't understand, the way he taught me. She was accepted into the program, and on her first day of air marshal training, Agent Martinez was there as a guest instructor. Some of you might recognize me from a viral video a few years back, he told the new recruits. A kid screaming at me in an airport, telling me I was nobody. That video could have been the end of her story. Bratty child faces consequences, learns nothing. Instead, it was the beginning. The beginning of understanding, of growth, of service. He looked directly at Madison. That kid is now your classmate. She's here because she learned that humility and service matter more than privilege and pride. Remember that when you face difficult people out there. Sometimes the person causing problems just needs someone to show them a better way. After class, Martinez pulled Madison aside. Proud of you, kid. You've come a long way from that airport screaming match. Thanks to you. You could have arrested me. Could have let me learn the hard way. Sometimes the hard way is the only way. But sometimes, if you're lucky, someone gives you a chance to choose a different path. I'm glad you chose wisely. Madison smiled. I had a good teacher. And somewhere in LAX, at a TSA checkpoint, federal officers continued their work. Some in uniform, some undercover, all dedicated to keeping people safe. Most passengers would never know their stories, never understand their sacrifices. But one former bratty kid knew, and she'd spend the rest of her career making sure others learned too.